Hello, I'm Robert McKay. You will see in a minute that this is Whiskey for Beginners, a thoroughly amateur production. And being thoroughly amateur, I'm going to test something. It may work very well. It may work utterly not at all, which is something of what I expect. But let's go ahead and try it out. And I don't think this is going to work at all. That does not look like it's working at all. So, we'll see how the second part of the experiment went. The reason I'm experimenting is I had noticed on previous videos, once I uploaded them and watched them back, I do that just to see what I might need to improve on. And y'all might have seen several of the videos and are thinking, nothing has improved. Well, I'm a hick, I'm a whissywig kind of guy, so some things aren't going to change. But I had noticed that the title cards were fading out, and then last night I was this is Monday, anyway, I was watching the latest video I had uploaded as I record this. It might be several videos in the past by the time you see it. But I had noticed that I had the title cards closer, and they were showing up, whereas when they're further back, they weren't. And I'd pulled them back just so I could see the screen. But if this experiment tells me what I think it's going to tell me, then I'll start putting them up close again. Meanwhile, tonight is a review. I say tonight, you may be watching this at noon. You may be watching it at 6 in the morning. Who knows when you're watching it. Now, if you've been watching this channel for any length of time at all, you know that I am a bourbon guy and sometimes drink rye and corn whiskey. Every once in a while, I also drink something Irish or Scottish. And what I have here is a Scottish whiskey. In the best fake Scottish accent I can do, it's Ardbeg Beastie, the ultimate Islay single malt Scotch whiskey, whatever. It is an Islay Scotch, which means it's peated. There's one distillery on that island which does not peat its barley. And what that means simply is after they've sprouted the barley, they dry it. Otherwise, you can't use it to make whiskey with. And to do so, they build a peat fire, and the smoke goes up and dries the barley, and the chemicals in the peat get into the barley and come through in the whiskey. That's a peated Scotch. This is a peated Scotch. Most Islay whiskeys are, as I've mentioned. It's a single malt. It is not, repeat, not, I emphasize not, a single malt. It is a single malt. See, 2 words there. Single malt. 2 words. Just like it's not Beastie. It's Beastie, 2 words. And you would think that a hick like I am, who can slaughter the language, would not get exercised about that point, but I do. Some things you cannot mess with and retain proper communication. Now, it says it's the ultimate Islay single malt Scotch whiskey. Whether it's ultimate, I don't know, but single malt simply means 2 things. First, the mash bill is 100% sprouted barley. And 2, it's from one distillery. In this case, what's the name of the distillery? Well, that's who imports it. Ardbeg Distillery Limited. It's 5 years old, and Scotland, just like the United States, by law requires that the age on the bottle be the age of the youngest whiskey. So if you're making a batch of 1,000 barrels, all of them 10, 12, 14 years old, and there's one barrel in that batch that's 5 years old, you have to call it a 5-year-old whiskey. I got this on the 28th of November of 2025. Cost me $57.99, so it's $58. I got this at the Kelly Liquors in the Mountain Run Shopping Center here in Albuquerque. This is my 3rd glass. I usually review on the 3rd glass. By then it's settled down and obtained whatever its permanent character is going to be. I have to tell you that on the first 2 glasses I have not found the wee Beastie all that impressive. I like Laphroaig 10, which is another Islay whiskey. Laphroaig is the distillery everybody knows on Islay. So I know I like peat. The question is, what is the whiskey like underneath the peat? And I have not found this impressive so far, but this is the 3rd glass. It may be different from the first 2. We'll see. Whatever my previous impressions, I'm going to review it, as I always do, based on what's right here. Being a Scotch whiskey, it's pretty pale. They almost exclusively age in used barrels. A lot of bourbon barrels go there because you can only use a bourbon barrel once to make bourbon. Once you've dumped the bourbon out, you can never use it for bourbon again. You can age whiskey in it, sure. You could re-char it if you wanted and age whiskey in it, but by American law, you could not call anything you ever put in it again bourbon. I think that's kind of silly. And if I had a distillery, which is not going to happen, just thinking about starting a distillery costs more money than I'll ever see in my lifetime and 20 other lifetimes. But if I had a distillery, I would make bourbon, but then I would re-char barrels and age what I would then call bourbon style whiskey. If the Tax and Trade Bureau of the ATF would let me. At least when it comes to the firearms part of it, the ATF is unconstitutional, but who cares about the Constitution in the United States anymore? Nobody. Conservatives don't even know what the Constitution says, and they don't care. As long as their pet programs are safe, they don't care what the Constitution says, just like the liberals. Definitely peat, and as I've been swirling it around, I've smelt the peat without even trying. Peat is a very distinctive odor, and I suspect that even on a low level it would be pretty powerful. Smells chemically, and as I don't know if chemically is a word, it is to me. Gift is not a verb, it's a noun. You cannot gift somebody something. You can give it to him. You can give someone a gift. Why am I making that point? Because we already have a perfectly good verb, give. But we don't have a perfectly good adjective, and so I invented chemically. I've invented very few words in my time One is Diswant. I've only had occasion to use it once, and that was the occasion I used it. Another is Disremember, and I later found out it already existed, but I invented it independently. And I've invented Chemically. You know, something can be lusty or, well, my brain's going flipping. It can be jammy, smells like jam. It can be fruity. It can be grainy. Why not Chemically? This is not really giving me the stereotypical Band-Aid note. Lefroy does. You smell it, I smell it anyway, and I smell a Band-Aid. This is more of the chemical, smoky peat. And that's all I'm getting. And that's one of the things that has not previously impressed me, and on this glass so far is continuing to not impress me. Now, I'm not an expert on Scottish whiskey. I'm not an expert on peated Scottish whiskey. This is only the second peated Scotch I've ever had. But on the Lefroy, yes, the peat is the dominant note on the nose, but underneath I can smell the whiskey, and here I'm not. I'm just getting the peat, that's all. By the way, I didn't tell you the proof on this. It is 47.4, so that's 94.8 proof, which is fairly high for a Scottish whiskey. Usually they're 80, 86 proof, here in the States anyway. Yeah, I'm just getting the peat, that's all. I always go for the mouthfeel on the first sip, but I got some flavor notes there, and I lost my concentration until almost too late. It's for a 94, 97, what did I say? 94.8 or whatever it was, 94 point something proof whiskey. It has a mouthfeel commensurate with the proof. Nothing spectacular, but it's not thin, it's not watery. And now I'm going to go for the flavor, and I'll tell you what I got. It drinks hotter than it is. I should not get that much alcohol on that proof. But it's not just alcohol that makes a whiskey hot. There are various other chemicals as well. But I got honey, and then cinnamon came in, and then alcohol, or anyway the heat, took over and banished all other flavors. And that's what happened on the mouthfeel sip as well. It's just not a complex whiskey on the palate. Now, I like a honey note, I like a cinnamon note, but I want more than that. And I don't want the heat to trample them away. Still not getting anything on the nose but the peat. I got some brown sugar there in addition to the honey and the cinnamon and the heat. It tastes more like a bourbon than my limited experience of Scotch. Let me just run it down. Lefroy 10, Dewar's, I think it was 10 year, might have been 12, which was absolutely undrinkable. That's a Dewar's White Label. Glenlivet 12, which is not bad. At least the one bottle I've had of it, I didn't mind. Balvenie Caribbean Cask, which is nice and sweet. I have at one point had a sample of Glenlivet Caribbean Reserve. I honestly don't remember what it tasted like. What else have I had? The Lafroig tin, which gives me peat and a bunch of fruit as well. And then this. This is not the worst Scotch I've had. That's all I'll say on that score at this point. I'll get to that later. But based on my limited experience of Scotch, this is not a typical palate for Scotch. There might be a whole slew of Scotches out there with a similar palate, but if it weren't for the peat and if it were a bit darker and more complex, I might think this was a bourbon. Yeah, honey, cinnamon, brown sugar, heat. That's all I'm getting on the palate. I like it better on this third glass than I did on the first or second, but it's just not giving me much. So let me move on to the finish. I'm getting peat there. I'm not getting a lot of peat. In fact, I don't believe I've mentioned peat on the palate. On the finish, there's some peat. There's also the cinnamon and brown sugar a little bit, but mostly just the heat. There might be a tinge of oak in there, but I might as well just chop off finish because there's not much more I can say about it and go to the summary. Because I've been knocking on that door for a few minutes now. Speaking of which, I'm at 18 minutes just about. In summary, this is not bad, but it's certainly not worth 58 bucks. This is not, in my judgment, a 58-buck whiskey. If it was 35, it would wow me for that price. If it was 40, it would be worth it, maybe. Yeah, at 40, this would be worth it. From 45 up, the quality of it, the taste, the whole thing does not match the price. I don't regret trying it. I don't regret the 58 bucks. The only way you can find out if you like whiskey is to taste it. And since for various reasons I haven't been in a bar in, egad, the last time was 1982. And I see no reason to go to one. The reasons, I'm not enumerating them, but I have reasons which I see no reason to contravene. I won't be going to a bar and trying things by the glass. So I'm not going to buy this again. I'll be honest, I don't even know that I'm going to keep this. After 3 glasses, it has not impressed me. It's not worth the price. Again, it's not bad. But as a $30 whiskey, it would be okay. It's not worth 58 bucks. Not at all. So, my 8-level Hick whiskey scale, 1 at the bottom, 8 at the top. It's not bad, which is number 1. It's not purr, which is number 2. It's not mediocre, which is number 3. I'm going to say this is number 4, okay. And when I'm reviewing something other than bourbon or corn whiskey or rye whiskey, I try to take into account the nature of the thing. This isn't bourbon. It's nothing American. I cannot judge it by the same standards in every respect that I would use to judge bourbon. But even taking that into account, I give this a number 4. Okay. That's 2.5 stars. It is a 50 out of 100 or 5 out of 10 if you rate things that way. And don't take my review as the only word. There are a lot of people who like this wee beastie. It's people who like it, people I trust, who led me to, when I wanted to buy a scotch, led me to try this. A lot of people like it. I find it okay. That's my palate. That's my judgment. You might find it comes across differently to you. So, we set that aside. If I keep talking, I'm just going to repeat myself repetitiously in a redundant fashion. And although I do work for the Department of Redundancy Department, I try not to repeat myself redundantly in a repetitious fashion unless I'm having fun. I'm funning y'all here. You know, I like whiskey. I'm serious about my whiskey, but I don't take myself serious. If I can't josh y'all, what's the point? And y'all might say, well, he says he's funning, but I see nothing funny about it. You in good company. There's a whole crowd of folks out there think I ain't too awful blame funny. But since this is a Scottish whiskey, I'll give you one of the very exceedingly few words of Gaelic I know, and I don't even know how well I pronounce it. Sláinte.